My name is Megan Calloway. I'm 53 years old, a nurse supervisor at a rehab center just outside Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I've lived a quiet life, not glamorous, not perfect, but filled with the kind of small, steady love that doesn't make headlines. Or at least I thought it was love, because on the day after my husband died, I walked into what used to be our home and found the locks changed, my suitcase on the porch, and his mother standing in my kitchen unpacking her things like she'd never left. And what she said to me? It didn't just shatter me. It rewrote everything I thought I knew about family. "You're just a wife without a will," she said, cool as stone. "This house belongs to family now." She smiled when she said that, as if I wasn't even human. And I just stood there, soaking wet from the cold rain, staring at her in silence. Then I smiled back. Because what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I never forget when someone shows me who they really are. And I always return the favor. Before I dive into this, take a moment to like and subscribe if you enjoy true life revenge stories. This one's for anyone who's ever been pushed aside, underestimated, or told they didn't matter. Let's begin. I met Greg when I was 26, working the late shift in the ER. He was a paramedic, quick-witted, calm under pressure, and had this warm drawl that made every bad night feel just a little bit safer. He'd bring me little things, coffee, granola bars, once even a box of red velvet cupcakes on Valentine's Day when I was on call and couldn't go out. We weren't flashy. We didn't take big trips or throw big parties, but we fit. He moved into my little ranch-style house 2 months after we married. I had bought it before we met with help from my dad's union pension, paid the mortgage for 18 years. It wasn't big, but it was ours. Or so I thought. Greg's mom, Lorraine, never liked me. You know the type. Church committee royalty, always wore pearls to the grocery store. Thought nurses were just glorified maids and scrubs. The first time I met her, she asked me if I ever considered something more respectable, like dental hygiene. She'd never say it to my face, but I knew what she thought. I wasn't good enough for her son. But Greg, he was blind to it. "She just has strong opinions," he'd say, kissing my temple. "She'll come around." Spoiler, she didn't. Lorraine visited maybe once a year, just long enough to criticize the curtains or sigh dramatically at how we still didn't have granite countertops. We had no kids, tried for a while, but nothing stuck. She never let me forget that either. "Well, maybe if you worked less and cooked more, the Lord would have blessed you with a baby." That one still stings. But Greg was my world. I ignored her, I put my head down, I built a life with the man I loved. And when he got sick, I stayed. Greg was diagnosed with colon cancer 3 years ago. Stage 4. He was only 56. I sat beside him through every treatment, every sleepless night, every chemo-induced rage when he hated what his body was turning into. I held the basin when he threw up. I clipped his toenails when he couldn't reach. I kissed his head after it went bald. Lorraine? She visited once, brought a casserole we didn't touch, and left after 45 minutes because hospitals make her anxious. And when Greg passed, quietly, in the early hours of a Sunday morning, I was the one holding his hand. I whispered, "It's okay, baby. You can rest now." And then he was gone. I went straight from the hospital to the funeral home, then to our lawyer, then to the church. I didn't sleep for 2 days. And on that second day, I finally went home. My home. But my key didn't work. I thought I was losing my mind. Tried again, nothing. I rang the bell, no answer. Then I walked around back and the slider door was cracked open. I stepped inside and I knew. Something was wrong. The smell was different. Not the faint scent of Greg's aftershave or my lavender plugins. Instead, it was a sharp hit of lemon pledge and burning bacon grease. And then I saw her. Lorraine. In my kitchen. Wearing one of my aprons, opening my cabinet. She turned when she saw me like I was an annoying neighbor, not a grieving widow. "Oh, you made it." That's all she said. I blinked, wet hair dripping onto the floor, my work shoes squelching with every step. "What are you doing here?" I asked. She gave me a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "This house belongs to family now. Greg didn't leave a will, and you're just a wife. Technically," she added, "you don't own anything here anymore." I couldn't even breathe. I looked around and realized boxes. My things were gone. She had moved them, some even labeled junk. She'd already started decorating, replaced my cross-stitch wall hangings with oil paintings of farmhouses. It was like I had been erased. And maybe she thought I would scream, or cry, or beg. But I didn't. I stood there, cold and soaked, and utterly alone. And then I smiled. Because I knew something Lorraine didn't, something she should have known if she'd ever bothered to understand who I was. See, I may be just a nurse, as she liked to say, but I also read everything, and when Greg got sick, I made him draft a will. He didn't want to at first, thought it was too grim, but I insisted. And not only that, I recorded it, had it notarized, filed a copy with our lawyer, and another at the courthouse. And in that will, Greg left everything to me. Every stick of furniture, every photograph, every cracked tile in the kitchen I once dreamed of replacing. The entire house. My house. I just hadn't told her yet. But I would. In due time. For now, I wanted to see how far she'd go. Because if Lorraine wanted war, she just walked on to the wrong battlefield. You ever watch someone dig their own grave while you're standing there holding the shovel? That's what the next week felt like. I could have walked into that kitchen and ended it all right there, flashed the paperwork, called the sheriff, had Lorraine tossed out by sundown, but something in me said no. I wasn't done watching her show her true colors. I wanted to see the full extent of her arrogance, because people like Lorraine don't stop at trespassing. They think the world is supposed to mold around their version of reality, and when it doesn't, they double down. Loud, mean, and stupid. I spent that first night at a Days Inn off I-40, eating gas station pretzels and staring at the stained popcorn ceiling, still wearing my scrubs from the day Greg died. Not one of my proudest moments. But it gave me time to think. Lorraine moved in fast. Too fast. She must have been watching Greg's condition, waiting like a vulture. She knew he was terminal. She probably even followed the obituary notice, saw when he passed, and showed up before I'd even gotten home from the funeral. I don't think she cried for him. Not once. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old voicemails looking for one in particular. Greg had recorded it 8 months earlier, right after we left our lawyer's office. "Okay, babe, so now you have it on record. I signed the will, gave you everything. If I kick the bucket before you, it's all yours. You were right to push me. I'm glad we did it." I listened to it 3 times before I could breathe again. That voicemail was going to be gold, especially once Lorraine started playing dirty. And sure enough, she did. The next morning, I called our lawyer, Marcus Dunleavy. Sharp guy, dry humor, has a taxidermy bobcat in his office that freaks everyone out. "Is this about Lorraine?" he asked before I even said hello. "Yeah, it's in my house. She changed the lux." Long pause. "You want me to file something?" "Not yet. Just send me a copy of the will, certified, and the audio backup if you still have it." He grunted. "I've got it. You sure you don't want to go nuclear?" "Not yet," I said. "Let her think she's winning." He chuckled. "You always did have the long game in you, Megan." By the 3rd day, Lorraine was bold enough to send me a text. No punctuation, all caps. Need you to come get your cats. Allergic. I almost laughed. Those cats had lived there longer than Greg had. I rescued them from a shelter when I was 35. Milo and Boo, lazy, cranky tabbies who hated strangers. So I drove over around 6 p.m. when I knew she'd be home, parked right out front, slow and deliberate, like I wasn't ashamed of one damn thing. She opened the door halfway, blocking it with her body. "You're not allowed in." I smiled. "I'm not staying, just grabbing my boys." Milo slipped past her legs like he was escaping prison. Boo hissed when she tried to pick him up. They ruined the guest bed, scratched it up, smelled like animal. I looked her dead in the eye. "That was my bed. You mean you're a guest." She didn't like that. "If you want to play nasty, we can go to court. I will win." Honey. I wanted to tell her then that the house wasn't just legally mine, it was airtight. Greg had even written her out of the will completely, left her nothing but fond memories, which he actually wrote into the document just to be petty. But I didn't tell her, because the longer she pretended to be queen of the castle, the worse she looked. And I had a plan. A few nights later, I pulled into the driveway with a friend of mine, Tamika, another nurse from the rehab center. Big laugh, bigger sense of justice. "I still can't believe this woman moved into your house like it's a damn Airbnb," she said, stepping out of the car. "You sure you want to go through with this?" "Oh, I'm sure. Just keep the camera steady." Tamika angled her phone just right, recording as I walked up to the front door. Lorraine opened it in a silk housecoat, holding a glass of red wine like she was starring in a Hallmark movie. "What now?" I kept my tone polite. "Just here to let you know, this is your final warning. I'll give you until Sunday to vacate. After that, legal proceedings begin." She laughed like I told her I was running for mayor. "You don't scare me. You've got nothing. No will, no rights, no family. This house belongs to Greg's bloodline." "That's interesting, because the county clerk might disagree." Her eyes narrowed. I pulled a small envelope from my purse, not the will, just an empty one with the clerk's return address stamped on the front. Her eyes twitched. She slammed the door in my face. Perfect. All on camera. That weekend, things escalated. I started getting letters, not from Lorraine, but from a shady estate attorney out of Greensboro, claiming to represent the Calloway family's rightful interests. The envelope had gold-embossed lettering like it was from Buckingham Palace. He claimed that, due to intestate succession, the property and assets were now under dispute and that I was to cease all contact until legal ownership could be determined. I forwarded it to Marcus. 10 minutes later, he called me howling with laughter. "Megan, that firm, that guy's not even barred in this county. He does traffic court and DUI settlements." That confirmed it. Lorraine was grasping at straws. But the part that got me? She was already selling Greg's things, my things. Tamika spotted a Facebook marketplace listing for our vintage record player, captioned "Downsizing Estate, Serious Buyers Only." I clicked the seller profile, Lorraine C. 59. That's when I snapped. I wasn't just being erased, I was being liquidated. Sunday came. I showed up early. This time, I brought Marcus. He stood tall in his beige trench coat, bald head gleaming like a warning. Lorraine opened the door and actually flinched when she saw the legal folder in his hands. "Mrs. Calloway, you are occupying this home illegally." "No, Greg didn't leave." "He did. In fact, here's the notarized copy of his will, with recorded audio and a witness affidavit. The house belongs solely to Megan Calloway." He handed it to her. She didn't take it. She just stood there, blinking, hand trembling. "You're lying. You have 48 hours to vacate. After that, law enforcement will assist." And then I said, gently, almost kindly, "You should start packing, Lorraine." She didn't slam the door this time. She just backed into the shadows.
But as I turned to leave, something strange caught my eye through the window on the hallway table. A letter, open. The name on the return label? C. Barrett, Raleigh Correctional Institution. Barrett. That was Greg's cousin, the one who went to prison 15 years ago for fraud. Why was he writing her? And why had she kept it hidden? I didn't know it yet, but the truth in that letter would blow everything wide open.
There's a moment right after justice starts to tilt in your favor when you feel it all shift. Not like fireworks, not like applause, more like a deep, quiet breath you didn't realize you'd been holding for years. That's what I felt, standing in my front yard while Lorraine slowly peeled out of the driveway in her old white Lexus, trunk stuffed, bumper sagging under the weight of every porcelain angel she couldn't leave behind. I didn't wave, I didn't gloat. I just stood on my own porch, mine again, barefoot in the summer dust, and watched her go. But the war wasn't quite over yet. Not after what I found in that letter. It took me 3 days to work up the nerve to open it. I tucked it into my purse the night Marcus handed Lorraine her walking papers, figuring I'd toss it once she was gone. But something about the way her hand trembled when she grabbed for it stuck with me. The envelope was thick. Cheap paper, yellowing on the edges, postmarked from Raleigh Correctional Institution, like I thought. The sender? Clarence Barrett, Greg's second cousin. Ex-con, white-collar crimes mostly, check fraud, tax evasion, and some rumor years back about identity theft that never stuck. He was older than Greg by at least 10 years, and they hadn't spoken in over a decade. So why was he writing Lorraine? Inside was a single sheet of legal pad paper scribbled in tight, angry loops. I did what I could, but without Greg around, the rest is on you. You said you'd handle it. Don't let her keep the house. It's family blood. Don't screw this up again. Again? That word set like a rock in my chest. I read the letter 4 more times before I saw the pattern. It wasn't just bitter family gossip. It was collusion. Lorraine and Clarence had tried this before. Maybe not with Greg's house. Maybe not even with a house at all. But something smelled rotten. I pulled up the county records, digging through old property disputes tied to Clarence's name. 2 hits. One of them, a woman in Siler City, same last name as Clarence's ex-wife, property seized, eviction filed, attempted name transfer that was denied by the court due to forged paperwork. Suddenly, it all clicked. Lorraine wasn't just grieving, she was hunting. Greg's death gave her an opening, a soft target. Me, just a wife without a will. Except I had the will. And I had receipts. And now I had motive. Marcus helped me file a formal complaint with the DA's office, citing potential conspiracy to defraud an estate. The letter from Clarence became our golden ticket. It wasn't enough to press charges, not yet, but it was more than enough to keep her from pulling the stunt again. We also filed for damages, emotional distress, unauthorized disposal of personal property. I had photos of my empty jewelry box, missing keepsakes, even Greg's father's dog tags, gone. She tried to deny it. Of course she did. Then Tamika came through. She'd taken a picture of a box labeled Dad's War Stuff in Lorraine's car trunk the day she filmed our fake confrontation. You could clearly see the dog tags hanging out. Boom. The case never even made it to trial. Lorraine settled out of court, paid a hefty fine, signed a restraining order, and just like that, the queen of appearances vanished from the county like smoke in the trees. No more lemon pledge, no more threats, no more Facebook listings for my things. Just peace.
For a while after, I didn't know what to do with myself. Grief is a strange beast. I hadn't even begun to properly mourn Greg before I was forced to defend his memory like it was a contested territory. But once Lorraine was gone and the house was quiet again, I started letting the silence in. I found his hoodie still folded under the laundry basket. Still smelled like him. I found the movie stub from our last date night, Ford versus Ferrari, of all things. He loved anything with an engine and bad dialogue. I cried hard. Then I cried again. But they were clean tears, the kind that don't taste bitter anymore. I slowly redecorated the house, not to erase him, but to include myself in it again. New curtains, lavender ones. Greg always said they made the living room feel like spring. I built a small reading nook by the window where his old recliner used to sit. Milo sleeps there now, curled up on the cushion like a little gray guardian. I donated what I could, held on to what mattered. And one afternoon, I took the will, the actual paper copy, and I framed it. Hung it in the hallway. Not out of pettiness, out of pride. Because I fought for what was mine. I stood in the storm, and I didn't back down. Sometimes I wonder if Greg knew this would happen, that Lorraine would go full vulture. Maybe that's why he said yes to drafting the will that day, even though he hated the topic. Maybe some small part of him knew the battle would come and wanted to give me the weapons I'd need. And maybe, in the end, that was his final act of love. Not flowers, not poetry, but proof. Proof I mattered, that I wasn't just a wife. I was his wife. It's been 8 months now. I'm in the same house, same job, same porch swing Greg hung up the summer before he got sick. Only now I sit on it without flinching. I've started a little side business too, estate advocacy for widows. Nothing big, just helping women like me navigate probate, wills, shady in-laws, and all the minefields no one prepares you for. Turns out, the best revenge isn't screaming. It's surviving. It's thriving. And every time I get a thank you card in the mail or a voicemail from a woman saying, "You helped me not feel crazy," I smile. Because I remember what it felt like to be told you were invisible and then to prove them wrong. So if you're out there, Lorraine, and I know you still Google me from time to time, just know this. The house is standing, and so am I. Sometimes the best revenge is just becoming the person they never believed you could be. If you've ever had to fight for what was rightfully yours, or someone tried to erase you and failed, drop your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you found your power again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to know you're not just a wife. You're the whole damn legacy.